Welcome to Running the Table, the podcast where we run through everything on the table in the world of college basketball. The long-awaited part two is here, and I'd say we're dressed for the occasion. We've got the second half of the Purdue Boilermakers men's basketball roster to cover today, starting with the last two forwards before we get into our very talented and quite unique front court. There's no time to lose, and I won't keep you waiting any longer. So without further ado, let's run it. We ended off with the two forwards we saw a fair amount of last season with Jakari Harris and CJ Cox. Now on his two new faces. Starting off with Jack Benter. He's an interesting case. A 6'6", 215-pound redshirt freshman who came in relatively unknown as a three-star recruit from Brownstown, Indiana. Ended up second in the 2024 Indiana Mr. Basketball voting to Flory Badunga, eventual Kansas commit. He didn't fit into the rotation last season and instead used it to redshirt, work on his game, and bulk up to 215 pounds where he's listed currently. But he's making a statement now, at the very least within the program this summer. Guys like TKR have said he'll be ready, and from various practice clips we've seen Boilerball post, his shot looks pure and he looks confident. Where that will put him in the rotation, I have no idea, because apparently he's been putting in work as a backup four guarding TKR since Liam Murphy has been recovering from shoulder surgery, but he would definitely be a small ball four, similar to Murphy, but at least Liam Murphy is an inch taller than him. I'd love to see Benter come out just lighting it up from deep, but I have to say he's on the back end of the rotation unless he's turned into the second coming of Sasha Stefanovic. But since we've been hearing so much about his complete offensive game, maybe he forces his way into somewhat of a consistent role. Moving on to Liam Murphy. He's our first transfer that we've talked about. Liam Murphy is a 6', 7" stretch four painter brought in from North Florida to be an absolute sniper when Purdue chooses to go small ball. Maybe there will be some times where he bring him in as a tall three if game script allows, but I see him mostly taking up minutes when TKR needs a break or is in foul trouble. Starting off at Columbia his first two seasons, Murphy had a big role his freshman year, averaging 12 and 5, but his role diminished his sophomore year and he shot the ball worse in his reduced role. From there, he decided to get a change of scenery and headed to the University of North Florida, where he flourished in a sixth-man role, averaging 13 and 3 in 24 minutes per game, shooting 42.3% from three on 3.3 to 7.7 attempts per game. You can clearly see what his role was. Come in and light it up from deep. And that's what Painter will likely look for him to do as well, just not on as many attempts. But if he can come off the bench, average 40 to 45% from deep on maybe 2 to 3 attempts per game, he will be an incredible addition to the rotation. The biggest question is how will his shooting numbers be affected by a smaller role, since it's definitely more difficult to come in for maybe just 10 to 12 minutes per game and shoot well when you don't have as much chance to get in the rhythm. Clearly, he struggled with that a bit earlier in his career. But moving on to the front court, we start off with first team All-American potential Trey Kaufman-Renn. The second preseason first team All Big Ten player on this roster, TKR was the nation's leader in field goals last year, largely thanks to the wizardry of Braden Smith. But the career arc of TKR is a unique but fascinating one. To watch him come in with Caleb First in 2021, redshirt his freshman year because of a deep front court in front of him, as well as dealing with a nagging injury, and then sit behind the two-time National Player of the Year, Zach Edey, before he could finally make a name for himself last season. And boy, did he step up to the challenge. Jumping from 17 to 31 minutes per game, he showed what he learned from constantly battling Edey in practice, dominating in the post with his strength, coordination, and nearly automatic right jump hook, just like Edey. Will he continue his breakout and even improve from last year's stat line? My prediction is yes and no. I think it's going to be hard for him to average significantly more than the 20 points per game he did last season because this team has the ability to score the ball from everywhere. He will absolutely still get his, but we've got shooters everywhere, and he's probably going to get doubled even more. There are just a lot of indicators pointing towards him taking a step back in points per game, even if he technically plays better or more efficiently. There's a couple of ways he definitely can elevate his game, though, that could lead to a bump of maybe 22 points per game if he really improves. First being a set, catch, and shoot three-point shot. Teams are going to defend his, Jacobson, and Clough's pick and rolls like their life depends on it. If he can pop every once in a while and prove that he can hit open step and threes at maybe 35, even 37%, a definite elevation. Secondly is his free throw shooting. TKR shot his highest percentage from the line last year at a measly 64.8% on 3.8 to 5.8 free throws per game. He's going to continue to get fouled a lot. And if he can get himself up to at least 70% from the free throw line, he can add a solid 2, maybe even 3 points per game just like that. Moving on to Daniel Jacobson. He's a redshirt freshman coming into this year. Jacobson was set to be a major contributor to the Boilermakers last year as a true freshman before his season was tragically cut incredibly short when he broke his tibia not 1 minute into the second game of the regular season, derailing Purdue's plan for the center position altogether, considering he had earned himself the starting spot. The silver lining? The injury happened early enough that he was able to obtain a medical red shirt to maintain his eligibility. He spent the season rehabbing from his injury and building his strength, adding 30 pounds from the slight 220 that he came into Purdue at, and you can see the visible difference. His presence as a shot blocker on the defensive end could have drastically improved Purdue's defense last year, and it's sure to give Purdue a massive boost this year. The question will be the offensive end. He has a decent jump hook from the limited playing time we've seen him play, but he has a lot to improve on his post scoring to be anything like some of the dominant front court presences Purdue has been blessed with in recent memory. The difference with Jacobson is he's 7'4" and he can step out and shoot it from deep, which is what's going to make him very valuable to play next to TKR when we want to stick him in the paint and give him space to work. If Jacobson can maintain that deep ball while continuing to be a presence as a shot blocker, you'll be a fantastic fit at the center next to TKR. The only caveat, I wish he was a better, more physical rebounder. I know we have a rebounder in Clough, but these two aren't going to be playing together, at least we don't think. So with TKR being a lackluster rebounder himself, we need our 7'4" center to be a great rebounder. But Jacobson has looked less than physical by Big Ten standards from everything at least I've seen from him recently. Now, this summer with the USA FIBA U19 team, it was his first live games since his injury, and it seemed pretty clear to me that his cardio wasn't quite there all the time. But I hope I'm wrong about all of this, and we see a motivated physical Jacobson come at the start of the season after battling with Clough all summer. Speaking of Clough, the 6'11" Australian brick wall. Clough joined the Boilermakers from the transfer portal this summer from the South Dakota State Jackrabbits, where he averaged a beastly 17.6 points and 12.3 rebounds per game, becoming the only other player in America to average at least 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 2 assists per game while averaging 59% from the floor, except Trey Kaufman-Renn. The biggest thing to highlight from his game is he is a relentless rebounder. He may be only 6'11", which is by no means short, but he gives up 5 inches to a guy like Jacobson, but he attacks the glass like no other. According to KenPom, he finished last year 5th in the country in offensive rebound percentage and 1st in defensive rebound percentage. His rebounding is exactly what Purdue was missing last season, along with Jacobson's shot blocking, of course. And while Clough isn't nearly the interior defender that Jacobson is, he's still the brick wall that I talk him up to be. And that alone is going to make it at least significantly more difficult for Big Ten centers or guards driving to the lane, which we struggled with massively last year. Between TKR, Jacobson, and Clough, you really have almost every aspect of a great front court player accounted for, but the combination of guys on the floor is going to dictate what strengths Purdue is going to have at any given moment. All that to say is that Clough is filling a massive hole that Purdue has been missing, and you can already tell he fits right into the Purdue family. And last but not least, Raleigh Burgess. Burgess is sort of the odd man out in this front court, but that is not to say that he hasn't shown significant promise in his young Purdue career. He played in 31 games last year, averaging just 6 minutes per game, but he showed some real grit and heart playing in every game with a lot of energy, something that a lot of players really lack. At 6'11", 245 pounds, Burgess tried to establish some sort of a postgame last year, but really found his limited success when he was on from 3. He had some rough games, airballed a shot or two, but as the season went on, he found his confidence and finished the season 6 for 15 from deep, good for 40%. A limited sample size for sure, but it shows definite promise as a stretch big if he continue to work on his physicality, make some strides down low and on the glass, and continue to hone in on his 3-ball. I really like the kid. I actually had a class with him at the end of my time as an undergrad at Purdue, so I will always be a Raleigh Burgess fan. But that's all I've got for today. I cannot overstate how much I appreciate the love on part 1 of this overview, and I can only hope we can keep the ball rolling as we get closer and closer to Exhibition Day against the Kentucky Wildcats. Keep an eye out for more content coming up, especially since the Boilers have another exciting recruit committed for the 2026 season. But if you want more from us, like, comment, and subscribe, and until next time, I'm out.